Hello, everyone. Welcome to Vision Central for online shopping with eSight. Today is November 18th, 2022. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. And today we'll be looking at shopping online with eSight. This is suggested by the coaches since the American Thanksgiving holiday is coming up soon, and then that leads to Black Friday and going to be leading to the Christmas holidays. So online shopping, always something to get involved with around those times, and makes it a bit easier to get those presents coming to the door. So right now we are just waiting for people to join the meeting. We have some participants coming in, so thank you everyone who's joining here right now, and hope everyone can hear me well and there's no issues there. And I'm just having a quick look. So see the people that have joined. Wonderful. Great. Okay, so I'm going to start off the meeting here. It's going to go with the first slide. So just to start off, we're going to have a little agenda here for today. Oh, I think we're live and I made a mistake. There we go. Already. There we go. So for the agenda, we're going to do a bit of an introduction, some housekeeping, and then we're going to learn about using eSight with online shopping. And then we're going to discuss any questions at the end, and the Q&A. We'll have a moment for that. This is live, so things might happen. As witnessed when I went to the wrong slide with my accidentally hit the mouse wheel. This is for users only of eSight. So everyone here on the call uses eSight and uses it in a variety of situations. You can raise your hand to ask questions throughout the event if something happens, or you can wait till the end to raise your hand on the using the computer. On a Mac, it's the Option key plus the Y key, and on a PC, it's the Alt key plus the Y key, and that will raise your hand in the chat. And if you have a question after, we can unmute you and get you to ask your question. We'll be happy to answer. This session should be only about 30 to 45 minutes in length. So just for some basic housekeeping and getting people comfortable with their eSight, you want to make sure that the eSight device fits right and everything is comfortable with it. So you want to make sure the handle is adjusted properly, your back straps are adjusted properly on the eSight screen, and making sure everything is fitting well. And eSight designed to keep you mobile with the bioptic tilt. Even when using the computer, if we're doing online shopping, we can utilize that bioptic tilt to adjust the visor to look underneath to have a peripheral vision and make changes to that. Cable management is also important. So, if you're having eSight 3, you're at a computer, you may want to make sure that the cable is tucked over your shoulder so you're not necessarily having to struggle with the cable getting in the way, right? If they're using a phone and stuff, just making sure things are tucked away, and that kind of helps if you're moving around and trying to look at things. I know when I first started wearing my eSight, I sometimes get my cable and my moving stuff around at my computer desk, and I kind of pull it a little bit and tug it, so I making sure it's tucked over my shoulder. Also, if you are using the eSight 4, just making sure you have the additional batteries on hand, or have a good battery management plan in place. Maybe you want to plug in your eSight 4 while you're being stationary if you're, say, doing some online shopping. So for today's agenda, we're online shopping with eSight. We're going to, it says here, we're going to start off with general accessibility on the computer with Richard. Richard unfortunately had some technical issues. I'm hoping he popped back in the call. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to start off with Cosmo. He's going to talk about using apps with eSight and general accessibility on a smartphone with the when you're trying to do some online shopping. So Cosmo, if you are ready, I will send it over to you.
I'm ready.
Okay.
All right, so do you need to turn off the slides?
Wait, I will do that. There we go.
All right. So I've got my iPhone here. I'm plugged in. That's why I'm in my kitchen. So I've got my text message app open right now. And on my iPhone, I have the text size turned up to, I think, 275%. So right here, you can see that's the text size zoom slider, And so it works really well for Apple apps. You can see with my, oh, there's my calculator, that works too. Everything is scaled properly, nothing's cut off. And then if I go here and reduce the text size, this is what somebody with normal accessibility sees. And so that's fine for most apps, but some apps aren't designed particularly well. And I'm going to open up Etsy, which is a popular shopping app. And you will see right here, there's a button. I can't see what the button says because some of the text is not proportioned well. And so if I go here and reduce my text size, then that button will be legible. And there's that button, it says add to cart. So for this particular app, if I wanted to be here and browse it, my choices would be either using my eSight, which is really good, or there's an accessibility option on Apple devices where you can do a 3-finger double tap, and you enable that in accessibility. And so 3 fingers, you go tap, tap, and it zooms in. And with those 3 fingers, you can navigate. So anytime I don't have my eSight on, this is how I get around my eSight or my iPhone. Double tap with 3 fingers. But then you're stuck scrolling around. So if I was gonna do my Christmas shopping and be on this website or this app for a while, I would make the text size normal and just use my eSight. It's a little less cumbersome. Some apps do handle, there goes that button again. Some apps do handle the scaling okay. Here's Amazon. And so Amazon just chooses not to make anything affected by the increased text size. So again, here I would need my eSight to browse it, or the 3-finger double tap, because this is all too small for me. But I use this 3-finger double tap quite a bit. Now, when you're viewing something with eSight, the default brightness of your phone might be a little bit high. And so if I look at it through my eSight, some of these letters might be a little fuzzy. And so what I find works is you go to swipe down to your control center, and right here, that's the brightness. And you can see my brightness is about probably 75%, maybe even a little bit higher. I'm going to lower my brightness to about 33%, to about 1/3. And you, right now, through this zoom camera, you can't really tell a difference there. Maybe it's like you're wearing sunglasses. The screen still looks fine, and the eSight camera likes this better. So that's my first troubleshooting thing. Anytime I'm looking at a screen and it doesn't look great, I turn down the screen brightness a little bit, and you still have, it's still plenty bright. And that's a lot easier than making any adjustments on the eSight. So getting comfortable with adjusting that text size is important, because there's just some apps that don't handle it well. And calculator again. Here's the app that I input my hours with, and this is really bad. I can't access, there should be like 5 buttons here for times. I can't even see the back button. I can't access it. It's blocked by that text right there. So this particular app is totally unusable with the accessibility on. So if I want to use it, I have to have my eSight on. And this is an important app. There's the button, but it gets totally obscured if you increase that text size. It's really frustrating that Apple doesn't make sure this stuff doesn't happen. Now the button's gone because it's obscured by the increased text size. So yeah, having the eSight is really valuable and just makes for less accessibility stuff you have to do on the phone. So anytime I am going to be on my phone for a specific task for a while, here's eBay. eBay again doesn't have any scaling with accessibility. It looks the same as it does if you don't have any. And so for here, I'm using the 3-finger tap or my eSight. And when you're using your eSight, you can do the contrast options in the filters, which makes browsing some of it, because I don't like that the white background. But for some apps, there is dark mode that you can switch to. I believe that's the button for that. I like my phone on dark mode. There we go. And so again, making the adjustments on the iPhone sometimes is easier than making it on the eSight, because if I put my color filter on my eSight and then I wanted to look at my watch would look really weird because it would be black and white or blue and yellow. So now I made the adjustments on my phone, and that way the rest of the room still looks normal. So finding the balance of the adjustments on the eSight versus the adjustments on the device you're working with, and figuring out which one makes your life easier. Why does it keep liking my calculator? So that's pretty much it. When I'm shopping, it just depends on the app, and it's often easier to have that text size turned down, but then that really affects my screen size or my text size. So thanks for watching.
Thank you, Cosmo. That was great. Thank you for showing the different aspects of using the cell phone for accessibility. Okay, I am going to get back to the slide here. And so next we're going to discuss general computer accessibility. And I said Richard was going to discuss this, but I am going to take Charlie with him. He's having some technical issues. So for using the computer in general, there's different ways you can use the eSight. So if you're sitting at your desktop computer, you have a monitor in front of you, the main way you can use the eSight is by looking through the camera in live mode, and you would then look at the computer screen, similar to how you look at your TV, and you can zoom in onto the computer screen to make the text and what you're looking at larger, add contrast to what you're seeing, and making changes from there. And then with the general thing, you can also adjust the image brightness. So sometimes when you're looking at a computer screen, you might find because the computer screen is a light source and you're looking at the light source, the image might be oversaturated or a little washed out. So what you may want to do is go into the image brightness on your eSight 4 and lowering that image brightness so the you're able to see the less saturation of the color, and the image would look better. Similarly, on a eSight 3, you would lower the exposure on your eSight 3. Now, depending on someone's acuity, you're going to look at the computer in a different way. So some people like to be fully immersed, looking purely through the camera when they're looking at that computer screen, or they may want to use the bioptic tilt to tilt it up slightly. So then you have your normal peripheral vision, and then you can tilt the glass down to be looking straight through just with the camera. So for example, if someone has an enlarged mouse and they're looking at their computer screen, one of the challenges can be trying to find where the mouse pointer is located on the screen. And if you're looking just through the camera, that means you're looking through a smaller field of view, and you may have trouble trying to locate where the mouse is. So if you say looking around the screen while looking through the camera, you might be looking at a small portion of the screen at the time where the mouse could just be just out of your view. But if you tilt the glasses up, you could then look around that image and go, aha, I see it's in the lower right corner there. And you can spot it, and then you can look at the lower right corner, tilt the glasses down, and see the mouse. One of the things I found for me when learning how to use a computer, I really enjoyed that bioptic tilt, to be able to go back and forth and kind of orientate myself around the screen. But everyone is going to be different. I have had other patients that have liked looking through the camera purely on its own and then looking around. It depends on the person and depends on what your comfort level is. In all honesty, I would advise experimenting with both and seeing what works for you. Because of the use of the bioptic tilt, and when you're using a computer, it's a combination of reading and hand-eye coordination. So you don't want to be looking at your mouse and say, you want to be looking at the screen and then moving your mouse around and following the mouse as you look around an image. And Jeanette's going to be actually showing that a bit when she gets to her portion. It takes time and it takes practice. So I don't want anyone to think that, using a computer and eSight is something that comes very quickly. I found for me it took a lot of practice to get there, but definitely something that the coaches can help you with. Now, The color filters themselves can also be helpful, as Cosmo alluded to. Now, for him, with Cosmo, because he's on a cell phone, he liked to change the background into dark mode on his cell phone. But on the eSight, you can change the color filter itself to give you that white on black, or say the black on yellow, or whatever you prefer in the color. So sometimes if you're looking at a website and you're finding, say, it's a news website, and sometimes they'll have a story with a hyperlink to another story that's in a light purple or light blue, that can be quite challenging to see. If you turn your filter on the eSight, it will make all that text appear a single solitary color, such as white or black, whatever color filter you're on. So I do find the color filter can be helpful depending on the website. There's some websites I just personally like to just put on my color filter, and I know it's going to be helpful to navigate it. Using HDMI in is another way that you can use the eSight with the computer. The HDMI in on the eSight 4 would plug in to the back of the left arm, and you would go from live mode to the feed of your computer. Now, with the HDMI cable, when you make a direct connection and the screen resolution is the correct screen resolution, it will be a switch. So you'll say, if you're looking through the camera, then you make that connection, it will say connecting to HDMI, and it will switch over. For a computer, the resolution that we recommend is 1280 by 720, or a bit lower from there. Depending on your computer setup, you may need to adjust the screen resolution if it doesn't switch. Normally, it is a screen resolution issue if it doesn't switch right away from the live feed into the HDMI feed. Now, once it switches over, depending on your computer setup, you may need to go to the multiple monitor settings. So ideally, how it should work is that the computer recognizes the eSight as a second monitor, and it will then replicate what's on your normal monitor into your eSight. So it'll be duplicating what you see. Sometimes when people make the connection, they'll say, see the desktop background with no icon present. And normally that happens when they are in an expanded mode. So it's like recognizing that eSight as a second monitor, and it's basically like, you imagine two monitors beside each other, and you're moving the mouse from one to the other, and it's stretching that background across two monitors. That's essentially what it's doing to the eSight. So what you'd want to do is make sure your second monitor is set to a duplicate. On a Windows computer, if you press the Windows key and P, it brings up to the projector side panel, and it will then change it to, it will come up duplicate, extended, and you can switch it to duplicate, and then you should see an exact replica of what is on your normal desktop. Now, the nice thing about using the HDMI in with the eSight is that you can have your desktop directly inside the eSight. You can still zoom in into the eSight, and you can add contrast to that when you're zooming in, and you can use your head to look around that image, and anything that you make, any changes that you make on the computer are replicated inside the eSight. So sometimes people might find they do very well with their computer, but they might use eSight for a little bit of a boost depending on what they're doing. For myself, if I'm on a spreadsheet, I find with my computer monitor, I have a 30-inch monitor, I'm pretty good for navigating it. But if I'm trying to go through the formula bar and I'm trying to be quick working on a spreadsheet, I like to use HDMI in, have it zoomed in and positioned on that formula bar. So when I'm making any adjustments on a calculation I'm trying to do, I just glance up with my eyes into the screen, and I can see that formula bar waiting there inside the eSight. And I find that works really well, and I find them very speedy that way. And there's a little bit of experimentation with the HDMI in. Some people like to just slowly look through the HDMI, others may like to use it for spot viewing like I do. Sometimes I find the HDMI in can be helpful too, where say if your general computer setup, you're very comfortable with it, but every once in a while you need a quick boost. Instead of having to utilize something on the desktop and disorientating yourself, you can look through it live view and zoom in, or if you're doing HDMI in, you can just quickly zoom in, pan around that image, and then leave it in that zoom, tilt the unit back up, and then you're back to normal view. And other thing, for proper connection for HDMI viewing, it depends on your computer setup. So for most PCs, they may have an HDMI output. So normally on a laptop, they may have an HDMI out that goes from the laptop to the computer monitor, and it's a matter of just taking that HDMI cord that is connected to the laptop for the monitor, unplugging it, plugging in the eSight HDMI connector, and it will make the switch. If you have something like a MacBook, it may not have an HDMI port, so you may need an adapter. Apple sells lightning to digital AV and lightning to digital AV cable, easy for me to say, and they also sell a USB-C, I think, to a digital AV cable for the newer products. And basically what that is because you don't have an HDMI out on the on that device, that dongle will switch that signal, say from a lightning port or USB-C port, to an HDMI output, and then the eSight will replicate it into it. This also does apply to iPhones as well and iPads. So that same, it can be on a desktop, it can be on an iPad, or it can be on a cell phone, and you can make that hardwire HDMI connection. For me, when I used to travel a lot with eSight, one of the things I like to do was connect my iPhone with a dongle with an HDMI in and connect Netflix and watch Netflix through my eSight, and I could zoom in and add contrast from there. And so it's just a matter of having that wire run from my phone into the eSight, and everything worked out well. But there's different ways of using it with other products. Depending on what you have, you might need a different adapter, so you may want to research into that. Now, with the HDMI and as I was saying, general computer use, you may want to practice with HDMI and experiment on what you like. And some people are going to prefer to do it for different ways. So I always kind of recommend practicing or doing some exercises. For me, I find HDMI is really helpful for spreadsheets. I find it's very helpful for if I'm looking at something and I know there's going to be a lot of changes in color font, or there's going to be changes in size. It's quicker, just instead of losing my place in live mode, I can use HDMI in and zoom in that way. But if you experiment, see what works for you, and your coach would be happy to walk you through that and chat with you about it, and go through that experience. But as I was saying, general computer use, you can either choose to do it in live mode through the camera, or you can choose to do it for HDMI in.
And Tyler, if I may,
Yep.
I've always been an advocate for live view. If I'm on my computer and with HDMI, then that's glued to my eSight screens. If I need to look down at the keyboard or at my cell phone, I'm locked in. So it just depends on the task you're doing. If you are, like Tyler said, working on a spreadsheet and it's going to be an hour, then I would connect to HDMI. But if I'm more multitasking, then I like to stay in live view. And especially when it comes to touch screens, if I'm using the eSight app to mirror my screen from my phone to my eSight, then I can't see my finger for the touch screen, and it's harder to interact with stuff. So it just depends on your activity.
Nope, sounds good. Thank you very much, Cosmo. All right, so next we are going to talk about the using online shopping with computers with Jeanette. So Jeanette, if you're ready here, I will bring up your video and I'll let you discuss what you're looking at here in your video.
Well, thank you very much, Tyler. It's wonderful. Can everybody hear me?
You should be able to. I can hear you, no problem. Let me open up your video here.
Beautiful. So what I'm going to be speaking about is, as Tyler said, actually using a live, now we've been talking about HDMI, which is wonderful, but I tend to really like using my live view, which is the view that you're in when you turn your eSight on. That's the view where you get all the images coming into your eSight. It's called live view. So I tend to like to use live view when I'm shopping for something online with because this way I have access to everything in real time. I can see where my mouse is going. I can use bioptic tilt and look at, if I need an overall view of the screen underneath my eSight, I can tilt it up and then I can go to a specific area, or I can use what's called the Finder on eSight 4, which is the middle of the 3 buttons just above the volume on the eSight 4 remote. It's the center button. You can press and hold that down temporarily when the eSight is zoomed up, and that shrinks everything back down to where it was before you zoomed up, and that gives a really good contextual view of what you're looking at. So in this particular video that we've got coming up, I actually focused on Amazon because I thought, you know, that's a fairly common website for people to use, and Cosmos showed you, you know, apps on his phone, and as many people know, there is an Amazon app that you can use. I chose to use it on my Mac, and what I was actually focusing on really was the main key areas that I tend to go for when I'm on any website. So that would be the options that are available to me along the top. I try and find the shopping cart so that I know roughly where that cart is. If I put something in, I want to go and check to see what's in there, I'll look there. And just underneath that, we've got some other menus. We've got some of the icons. And also we've got what we call the hamburger menu on the left-hand side, which is those 3 lines that people can click on to open up a menu. If they find that navigating via the icons is difficult, they can do it all in one spot in the menu. So Tyler, whenever you're ready, you can get that video rolling and I'll talk you through it.
I've been playing it.
It's not been coming out. We've actually just got the screen with, I'm sorry, I thought you were waiting for me. So we've got the screen with the general accessibility, and we've got the agenda, basically, yeah.
Oh.
Maybe you want to just stop sharing for a moment and then reshare again, perhaps.
Sure.
That might be an idea, to stop screen sharing for a moment. There we go. And then there we go. Now we've got it. We've got it.
Okay, well, I apologize, Jeanette.
That's all right. I'm sorry. I thought, okay, you're just waiting for me to tell you when you can start.
Nope, no problem.
Okay.
We'll resolve that. Here we go.
You can go ahead and press play whenever you're ready. So folks, here's what I've got my mouse very large. I've got my eSight zoomed up already. You can see that big word Amazon, and then next to it to the right, we've got home and select your address, which we don't need to do that at the moment. But what I'm doing is I'm going through the different areas. I'm really looking at the top. What I tend to do when I go to any shopping website is I go along the top and look. Generally, this is where you're going to find most of what you need in terms of navigation. So along here, of course, you can read, we've got books, we've got turn up the cheer, you've got, and here we've got the cart. So you see along the top, generally your cart's going to either be on the upper right or on the upper left on most websites. And then what I've done is I've gone directly to the left of the cart, and now I'm scanning backwards because I don't really want to move away from this area because I know where I am. So we've got returns and orders. I'm scanning backwards. Hello, sign in, account and lit. You can see this, right? Those of you who can read what I'm looking at with my eSight English, that's the language. There's a drop-down menu there. You can see with the arrows. We come to some icons that are kind of there as well. And I'm really wanting to sort of stay in that area. So I'm going backwards. There's my mouse. I've got a large mouse. I increased my resolution on my Mac to get a nice mouse. You've got all and a drop down. You've got some other features. We're still along the top here. So I am just going down a little bit. I'm not scanning all over the website. I'm staying in this upper area. You've got the back arrow and the forwards arrow. I'm generally scanning this area, folks. You've got the lock, because this is where, as far as I am concerned, I'm going to see most of the tools that I want. Now I'm going to go down, maybe have a little look slowly at some of these icons and what they are. Usually it's written underneath. If you can't make out what the pictures are, chances are you're going to see underneath what they're actually advertising. Early Black Friday deals are here. You can see that that's what that says. And next to it, you've got, you know, some videos, I think, the Savage, entry shop. You've got just different things that you could just click on. A lot of people will just scan around here with their eyes. You know, we're zoomed in, so we're really not getting an overall view. But sometimes we don't want that. Sometimes we want the detail. So this is what we're looking at. This is why we don't have an overall picture. But the good news is this is really small writing normally. But at least if you move up and down slowly, you can either go up and down or left to right. Now you see we're moving backwards. And you can sort of navigate very systematically around a website like this. And I'm looking for the hamburger menu, which I know is going to be on the upper, usually left or right. It's not going to be in the middle of the screen. See those 3 lines? That's your hamburger menu. All right, and you can see next to it is what we first looked at, Friday deals. Now, I just clicked on that hamburger menu and open it up. So now, again, I'm in the same kind of area that I was in before. I'm on the upper part of the screen, but I'm on the upper left now where the hamburger menu just opened. So now if I didn't want to go through all of those pictures and scan all over the website, I can kind of restrict myself to this one area. And when you've got a very limited view because you're using a very high level of zoom to read what's going on, it's really lovely to know that you can stay in one area or t'other and know that you're pretty much on safe ground. So you can see we've got some headings there, and then underneath that we've got Prime Video. You can see we've got Amazon Music. See, I'm just scanning back and forth. Echo and Alexa. So, you know, you can click on any of these items. Fire tablet. We've got another Fire, but it's not a tablet, it's a TV. And then you've got Kindle. So obviously that was under the digital heading, Audible books and originals. So if you're an Audible member, you could go there. You've got Amazon. I'm not advertising Amazon, by the way. This is just because I know that a lot of people like shopping on it. Amazon App Store. And, you know, I was actually I scrolled my mouse up a little bit, my mouse pad on my Mac. And so it pulled the menu up. You saw that shop by department. And so underneath that, we've got another subheading. You can tell it's smaller, it's lighter. You've got clothing, books, movies, and probably other videos and things like that. Yeah, movies, music, you know, and games. You've got all things media there. You've got electronics, but those are all but under like digital and those kinds of headings. And, you know, if you want to get out of that, you just go up and close that menu. And then you're back to your shopping again. You can also obviously search for things, but that's what I tend to like to do. I tend to like to look for the landmarks on a website. I usually stay at the top, and that will usually show you headings, and that's usually where your menu is going to be, and your cart. If they're not on the left, they're going to be on the right. You see that figure that you just saw, that kind of avatar of a person's head and shoulders? That's usually going to be like where they sign in or where their account is. See, and next to it, you've got the Amazon, and you've got that hamburger menu again as well. So that really is how I tend to navigate a website, and we're done. That's where I tend to navigate websites when I'm shopping online. I just look for the landmarks. And as I said earlier, you can use the Finder on your eSight 4 if you want an overall view and have a little bit more of an overall view than I was really zoomed in there. But you can do both, and you can also use that bioptic tilt so that you can still have that really close-up view, but you can tilt up a little bit so that you can use your existing vision and see an overall view of the screen as well. So there you go.
Excellent. Thank you, Jeanette. That's great.
You're welcome.